Good morning, YouTubers. It is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. And I wanted to shoot a video this morning on a blog I just wrote titled Do Androids Dream of Electric Caravans? We just got back from a monster vacation trip to the Florida Keys, towing this fifth-wheel trailer, which I'm in right now. You'll have to excuse, there's some fan noise off to the side here. It's kind of cold out here, and I'm running my heater in front of me here, a couple feet away. Of course, we got a heat dome going to settle over this whole area, Arizona and parts of New Mexico, coming Thursday. So we're going from winter to summer here in the next few days. A couple days ago we had a night with freezing. Anyway, weather seems a bit chaotic, I would say. We left on March 8th and we towed down to South Padre Island, spent a couple days there. It took about 3 days to get there, camping along the way. And then we also went over to Boca Chica and so we could look at SpaceX. And we've been there about 4 or 5 years ago, and the progress there has just been astounding as far as buildings and launch towers and rockets. And we finally made it down to the beach at Boca Chica. When we were there the last time, the road was closed off. We couldn't get down to Boca Chica Beach. Anyway, from there we headed on up north to Houston, and then we went to east through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and into Florida. And my sister and her husband are staying with her husband's daughter on a ranch they have there in Lee, Florida. And they have an RV set up there. And they invited us to come over and set ours up, and we did for just one night. And then we went to Tallahassee, Florida. We were going down the east coast of Florida. And then, not Tallahassee, I meant Titusville, excuse me. And from Titusville we went down to the Florida Keys. And we camped at Big Pine Key for 5 days. And basically we're living there. Kind of felt like I needed to go get a post office box. It was an enjoyable experience. I got to go snorkeling on a reef out there, and we took in some of the sights and ate some fantastic seafood and so forth. Then we came back up to Titusville, and I've never been to Cape Canaveral, the Kennedy Space Center, NASA, you know. So I wanted, it was on my bucket list. I wanted to go. So we went the next day, and then the day after that we went to stay with my sister again. What the hey, free camping, right? And after spending another day with them, we headed back home. And the only tourist stop on our way back home was Goliad, Texas. We met a friend there, and we took in the courthouse downtown, and we ate a meal on the square, and then we went out to the Presidio at Goliad, Texas to take it in. And then we went on home. So all total, and I'm saying this is a monstrous trip, we towed 5,842 miles Now, of course, some of the extended stays that we had at campsites, we unhooked and we would drive it around to local attractions. So some of that mileage is not towing, but not very much. We averaged 9.3152 over the 5,800 miles, and that's a good solid figure. That's what I've been seeing drop out as an average. I mean, we've been as low as 7.3 towing and all the way up to 11.3 with a good tailwind. So there seems to be a wider range on this trailer than there was on our previous trailer. Anyway, we burned 627 gallons of gasoline, mid-grade. And it cost us $2,085 for fuel. Average price per gallon, I think, I don't have it on this piece of paper in front of me, but it was like $3.23 a gallon. Oh, here it is. $3.32 a gallon, pardon me. So anyway, carbon emissions from this gasoline consumption was over 6 tons. It was 6.177 tons. So I like to say in my own little way that we were going to Florida Keys, so we wanted to get down there and visit them before they slipped underneath the waves from global climate change. And with the 6 tons of carbon emissions, we, in our own little way, we contributed to it. And that's why I wrote the paper. If the amount of energy we consumed was somewhere equivalent to about 21,000 kilowatt hours, but if we were actually driving an electric truck and towing, it would have been 6,038 kilowatt hours. Because I use 3.5 as a divisor for gas to electric conversions. And at the rate I pay at home, it would have only cost us $285. However, that's not what happens on the road, of course. You end up DC fast charging, which is more expensive than gasoline, really. And the only saving grace is that you could charge at campsites. Unfortunately, my trailer takes 240 volts, and it ties up the 240 volt outlet that I get when I'm camping. So that's not very feasible. It could be. I mean, you could operate off battery for quite a while, but if you're running air conditioning, you can't. So, and that's what caused me to write the blog, because several things need to happen to make electric truck towing, especially for a fifth wheel like I have, viable. And for example, with the Ford F-150 Lightning with a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack, you'd only make it about 80 to 100 miles between charges, and you might have to charge up to an hour. So you'd have to do at least 2 of those a day. Now on the plus side, you could charge at campsites, because you could power your trailer off the truck. And so you could pick up a sizable charge, not all of it, but you could pick up, 32 amps, you could pick up quite a bit of charge overnight. And that would reduce your charging on the road. I also ran into, at a couple campsites, I did run into some level 2 chargers. So that should be a thing. In other words, you unhook your trailer and then you go plug in your truck and charge. And I'd like to see a lot more of that. However, 131 kilowatt hour battery pack is just not enough. Having to stop every 80 to 100 miles is just a non-starter. it would have made the trip impossible. And as we knew it. So I really think there's a middle ground. Chevy has a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack in their Silverado, which I think is too much. What happens is the truck ends up weighing a ton more, and it reduces the amount of load you can put in the bed, which reduces the amount of load you could also put in the bed for towing. So I think it's a bit large. I think there's middle ground. 170 kilowatt hours might be a nice size pack to have in the Ford Lightning. And I think it's obvious, it should be obvious to everyone, the trailer itself needs a battery pack, and it needs its own electric drive to assist. This alone would extend your range a great deal to normal ranges. 150 miles, let's say. And then also, when you plugged in overnight, the trailer could easily recharge at the campsite. So that would all be a win-win. Then you could run air conditioning. And if you had charging at the park again, level 2 charging, chargers located at the park, you could unhook and take the truck and charge it. So this destination charging is of pivotal importance when you're traveling, I think. It reduces the stops you need to make on the road to DC fast charge by 1 at least. And it reduces the cost, because level 2 charging is a lot cheaper than DC fast charging on the highway. And you can only charge to 80%. It's possible to charge to 100% at a campsite if you start from a fairly high level of charge to begin with. So, for example, you might figure out what that is and then stop at a DC fast charger on the way to the campsite just before you get to it, and let's say charge the battery from 30% up to 50% or whatever it takes, so that overnight at the campsite you could get your battery back up to 90-100% while you're just there. So those are some of the things I think that need to happen. However, I think also added to this would be better aerodynamics. The aerodynamics on trailers is not good. We've all seen semi-trucks rolling down the road, and you see the fairing on the semi-truck that matches the trailer and allows the air to come off the truck and flow right over the trailer. And this is, the industry gets it. Trucking industry understands this, and it works. It saves them a lot of fuel, a shit ton of fuel and cost every year. And it's also in the way of a gap filler. Not only is the trailer over the bed of the truck, which is a gap filler, but there's still some distance between the cab and the trailer. But also there's this discontinuity between the height of the cab of the truck and the trailer. And also the sides. The air comes down the sides of the truck and runs into the trailer sides. And there needs to be a fairing on trucks, just like you see on semi-trucks, that allows the trailer to rotate, when you're parking and so forth. It allows you to angle it, and but still, it would shed the air off up over the trailer and around the sides of the trailer, so it didn't hit the sides. And that would save a bunch of fuel. Also, the tombstones, the air conditioner, and various items that are on the roof of trailers need to be placed somewhere else. They're just in the worst location possible. The fastest airflows are over the top of the trailer. They need to be, the air conditioning unit definitely could be in its own slider, which would deploy. You'd slide the slider out to run the air conditioner. Also would reduce the amount of noise inside the trailers from air conditioning, I think, which would be a win-win. And there's other things, you know. We have 2 domes on our trailer. One's for regular TV reception, and one's, antenna. And the other is a satellite dish. And they're not that big, but they're big enough. We also have some solar panels on our trailer, which need to be ferried in. They stick up about yay high on a platform above the roof, which is good. It allows airflow underneath them, but it also creates a lot of turbulence. So I'd like to see all that happen. And then on the back of the boat trailer, you could put a boat tail up to about 4 feet long that would reduce the wake area behind the trailer. All of these things would get the truck-trailer combination up over to from 9.3 miles per gallon on average up to over 11 miles per gallon on average. And you simply, when you were all done, you'd end up with an electric truck-trailer combination with all these things that would just have normal range that people are used to. Now that said, in our gas truck, which we have a 36-gallon gas tank, it kept saying the range was about 300 miles. The most I did towing was 278 miles. But most of the time, I was charging somewhere around 170 to 230 miles of range. It all had to do with where the gas stations were and timing, convenience, and so forth. So if you set out with a full gas tank in the morning, and you're doing a 300-mile day halfway or 2/3 of the way to your destination, you'd want to charge it, or you'd want to fill up your tank again. So you would easily get to your destination without any more worries. And you could either fill there that night or in the next morning. So I had similar range anxiety towing that I would have an electric vehicle because of the limitations on range. My car has a 300-mile range, my electric car, my Ioniq 5. And it was very similar to that experience. And so I had range anxiety, and I also had charger or pump anxiety. I was always looking for gas stations, looking for price, looking for locations that were along the interstate so we didn't have to get off the interstate and travel several miles to a gas station. That was a non-starter. And we was looking for Valero stations. So it was a very strange experience. Speaking of our car, we're going to take our car to our electric car to Tucson, and I looked it up from Radium Springs, New Mexico, and in southern New Mexico to Tucson. It's about 250 miles, I think. I have to stop for 11 minutes in Lordsburg to charge the car. That's it. Oh, the inhumanity of it all. What will we ever do? Of course, we have to charge when we get there, but then we're there. So that's about all I got for you. All these steps that I'm talking about would have reduced our electric cost. We spent over $2,000 on gasoline, and what's the point of some of this if the efficiency doesn't translate into reduced cost because DC fast charging is so expensive on the road? However, these steps and the availability of charging at campsites, your destination charging, would reduce our costs from over $2,000 down to at least about $1,300, I figure. So it would be worth doing for that, and the reduction in carbon emissions would make this dream worthwhile, I think. And I'm looking forward to buying an electric truck in the future, but not to tow this fifth wheel. Because the way it's configured now, it's just not really a viable way to go except for short distances. So there you have it. I don't think of anything else. that was my title was Android's Dream of Electric Caravans, and by that title, of course, I kind of implied that I may be the android. We all are nowadays, in some sense, with our phones and our brains linked into the internet on a daily basis at our fingertips. So, goodbye, everybody. Happy electric towing dreams. See you on down the road.